I don't know about that.
I've been said
fucked
that.
him up.
I would have knocked him the fuck out. And it's a reason why,
Hear the shit.
they went the other way. Stop playing with
Thank
me.
you. Thank you.
Stop playing with me. Niggas, real
Yeah.
boxing motherfuckers know why they went the other way.
Yeah.
He wasn't ready yet. He needed a couple of more fights, they said. Stop playing. Y'all be
Come on, bro. That's what I'm talking about. We already said
That's
that.
right.
We already said
That's right.
I was fine.
But I don't.
It ain't his time. Brian
That's
said the
right.
same thing. It ain't his time yet.
And I be trying to be nice because I support the young fella and all that. And he black and shit. I want to see him succeed.
That's my thing.
Niggas can't come up to me and do the same shit that they can do with other niggas. Niggas don't do that with me. I would slap the piss out of niggas' face. Niggas know who to play with.
But that was also what I'm saying. His career is already
Niggas don't even really be saying my name. They be like, oh, I'm with everybody. I'm on everybody. I will stop everybody. Niggas say my name. Niggas say I knocked Terence Crawford out, nigga.
You ain't regular, Terence. We know that. You ain't regular. You ain't regular.
See?
Well, I know me and Wallow tried you, nigga.
We won. We won,
nigga.
We won. I know martial arts. Let's change the sport. We can change the sport. And we're going to see what you're going to do then. I'm a martial artist. So I don't count if you knock me out. That shit don't count. It don't count. I got 13 belts. It don't matter if you knock me out.
Terence Crawford may have just thrown another massive spark into the already explosive Jaron Boots-Ennis situation. The question now is impossible to ignore. Is Crawford actually challenging Boots because he wants the fight himself? And if Ennis gets past Xander Zayas, would Crawford really expect him to step up publicly and demand the matchup?
Them actually, if they ever were to fight.
Crawford is a man. He showed it, throughout his career, and then moving up to super middleweight and did what he did with Canelo, showed that he's the best in the world, one of the best of all times. He doesn't need to prove anything else, man.
Terence Crawford against Jaron Ennis, for me, is the best fight in American boxing. But it needs to be a payday for Crawford that would get him interested, because Crawford knows how good Boots is. And I'm not saying that Crawford thinks he's going to lose to Boots, but he knows that is a real fight. But for me, Boots is the new Crawford. We've just got to go out and get the fights to show how great he is.
Boxing is full of fighters, promoters, and managers talking about wanting the biggest possible matchups, but everything changes once an actual deal has to be made. Suddenly, negotiations become complicated, details get blurred, and everyone seems to have a different version of what really happened. Meanwhile, fans are left debating every interview and social media post as if they are trying to solve a mystery.
And this is a fight that we all wanted to see like a few years back, even before the Canelo fight, was even a thing, even before the Canelo fight was even a possibility or thought. So obviously everybody wanted to see Crawford potentially give Boots an opportunity, but he's really heated and animated about what he would have done to a Boots-Ennis in a fight. I think at 147, yeah, Crawford would have cooked that boy. No offense to Boots. I like Boots. He's one of my favorite fighters, but Bud's experience and, his offensive pedigree is just different. He's on a different level. At this point in his career, you guys got to remember, Boots hasn't even reached his prime yet.
Yet through all that confusion, one name keeps appearing at the center of the discussion. He seems completely comfortable watching the chaos unfold, almost as if he already knows where the story is heading. That fighter is Terence Crawford.
And listen, man, we done already said we retired. We done already said we ain't got nothing left to prove in this sport. We done said that the money don't move us to go out there and box again. So why is y'all mentioning this Boots kid to us every time we pop out? We don't want to hear about no Boots. The only Boots we want to hear about is some Timberlands, some nice butters. Y'all really trying to get us to pop back outside. And I'm going to be real with you. I was never too strong on Terence Crawford. I thought Sean Porter could have beat him.
After months of arguments, accusations, questions about who avoided whom, Philly supporters defending their fighter, and endless boxing debates, Crawford has now put the challenge directly in Jaron Ennis' hands. The message is simple. If you get through Zayas, then stop talking indirectly and come straight for my name.
The question continues to rise now. Should the pound-for-pound king come out of retirement? Undefeated 5-division champion, 3-division undisputed champion, first ballot Hall of Famer, the greatest fighter of his generation, his era. Terence Bud Crawford, 42 wins, no loss, no draw, 31 wins by way of knockout. Should Terence Crawford, at 38 years of age, he'll be 39 in September, should Terence Bud Crawford come out of retirement and compete against the Phenom, as I refer to him as, former lineal unified WBA, IBF, Ring Magazine, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who is undefeated, 35 wins, no loss, no draw, 31 wins by way of knockout.
That suddenly made the entire conversation much more uncomfortable. Crawford has built his reputation by treating difficult challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. Most fighters carefully calculate the danger involved in moving up or facing another elite opponent. Crawford has often approached those decisions with a completely different mindset. Throughout his career, he climbed through multiple weight divisions while collecting championships along the way. Lightweight, junior welterweight, welterweight, and eventually junior middleweight all became part of his journey. The pattern became almost predictable. An opponent would enter the fight confident, Crawford would make adjustments, and before long, the entire contest would look completely different. That is why his reaction to the renewed Crawford-Ennis conversation is so interesting. He did not come across like someone desperate to avoid the subject. Instead, he seemed frustrated by the idea that people continue portraying him as someone running from a challenge. It is almost as if Crawford is saying he has no problem standing in the middle of the danger while everyone else keeps pretending he is hiding from it, and the timing makes things even more intriguing. This was not some carefully staged promotional event designed to create artificial tension. The comments emerge from the kind of chaotic boxing discussion where multiple opinions collide at once and everyone wants to get their point across.
Who they are cancel out each other as far as height. You know, they both switch hitters, lift, and everything. All of that cancels out each other. So they are literally the same people pretty much. The only difference is Crawford done been in the big stage against big fighters so many times. And also with age, he didn't beat up his body, so his age is actually good. He got the grown man strength. He not just grown man strength, but he built on top of that. Like, look at him at 135. He was a little scrawny dude. He wasn't a big dude. Now look at him. He ripped up everything. He's strong. So sure. I feel like he got everything, all the experience, all the knowledge. So
eventually, Crawford appeared to have enough of people talking around the issue without directly addressing him. His message to Boots was essentially this: if you genuinely want the matchup, stop dropping hints through interviews and podcasts and make the challenge unmistakable. That is where the situation becomes especially interesting. Whether someone supports Crawford or cannot stand him, his competitive nature is difficult to deny. This is not simply the usual athlete saying he believes in himself. Crawford has repeatedly shown that doubt and criticism can become personal motivation. That matters because many fans believe Crawford should now focus exclusively on legacy-defining opportunities. A potential mega fight with Saul Canelo Alvarez is one obvious example. From that perspective, taking on a younger and dangerous fighter like Ennis could seem unnecessary. But Crawford's career makes that argument complicated. He has already established himself as one of the defining fighters of his generation. He became undisputed at 140 pounds, later accomplished the same feat at welterweight, and then produced a dominant victory over Errol Spence Jr. in one of the biggest performances of his career. So the obvious question remains: why would someone with that resume willingly gamble against a younger fighter who was hungry, powerful, and still building his legacy?
Tired. And my thing is, if you felt this strongly about the Omaha Nightmare, aka Jerron Boots-Ennis, why didn't you send an offer to Boots-Ennis after you whooped Canelo ass? I'm just asking. You the A side now. But get this, you could have sent Boots an offer to go to 160, 168. You are the A side now. And respectfully, you are bored. Yeah, you sleeping at fights, gang. And let's be real, you owe the fans a reign as the face of boxing. I've already given you that title.
One possible answer is that Crawford has always seemed driven by the desire to prove doubters wrong. That mentality has followed him from the early stages of his career. While many champions eventually began prioritizing business decisions over competitive risks, Crawford still carries the mindset of someone who remembers what it felt like when people questioned whether he could reach the top. So when people repeatedly claim that Boots represents the future while Crawford is avoiding him, those comments could hit differently. Crawford may not view the criticism as harmless internet noise. A phone conversation that recently surfaced only added another layer to the story. It reminded fans that Crawford and Ennis were not simply invented as a fantasy matchup by social media users. There have been real discussions surrounding the possibility of these two sharing a ring. Crawford has also previously competed under BLK Prime, reportedly receiving a significant payday. Because of that history, claims that serious financial discussions could have been made around a potential Crawford-Ennis fight are not completely detached from reality. Of course, the timing matters. When those conversations were taking place, Ennis was still developing into the elite-level threat he is considered today. He had tremendous talent, speed, power, and potential, but he was still climbing. Putting a developing prospect against Crawford at that stage would have been an enormous gamble. Even supporters of Boots could understand why his team might have preferred a different route before making that kind of career-defining leap.
The boxing pundits and the public had to match you up with a Terence Crawford, right? Who was at the top of the game right now, because they couldn't see anybody else that could compete with him. So did you take that as a compliment?
When I was coming, I really wasn't too worried about who was this, who was that. Like,
you was focused on what you was trying to do.
I know my task in hand was coming up. At that time, I was fighting at 47, so my task in hand was being undisputed, you know, and these guys was playing around a little bit, so, you know, I didn't get to become undisputed, but it would have become unified, you know, lineal champion at 47, so that was, you know, good enough for me.
Is that frustrating to you?
At welterweight, Crawford had already established himself as one of boxing's most difficult problems. His victory over Errol Spence Jr. completely changed the way many people viewed him. Spence had entered that fight with a reputation as one of the division's most dangerous and complete fighters, yet Crawford broke down his style and took control of the contest. That performance followed years of Crawford finding solutions against opponents with completely different approaches. Southpaws, orthodox fighters, pressure fighters, counterpunchers, and technical boxers all presented different challenges, but Crawford repeatedly found ways to adapt. That is why supporters of Boots' team have argued that choosing another opponent at the time could simply have been sensible career planning, rather than evidence of fear. But Crawford supporters have their own question. If a serious opportunity was genuinely presented and the Ennis side decided to continue down another path, why should Crawford later be accused of avoiding Boots? Ennis has now reached a completely different stage of his career. For many fans, he is one of the leading candidates to become boxing's next pound-for-pound superstar. He has the athleticism, confidence, speed, and power to make elite opponents extremely uncomfortable. Crawford's supporters, however, see the situation through another lens. They believe Crawford already climbed the mountain and is now being criticized by people who have not yet accomplished what he has. That difference in perspective is exactly why this debate continues to generate so much emotion.
Fight somebody now, but at the end of the day, like, Boots is a talented fighter, but you guys got to understand Crawford has already done it all. You know, you don't want to put Boots, you know, who has so much potential and a bright future, in the ring with a guy like Terence Crawford. It just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense because Crawford was honestly like, let this kid be great. Don't put him in there with me because you're not going to get out of there alive. You know, I'm going to handle that business and retire the kid before he even gets his chance. So that's why Crawford is saying, dude, just stay away.
Then there is the Philadelphia connection. Boxing has always been deeply important to Philadelphia, and fighters from the city often receive fierce support from their hometown fans. Boots Ennis is no exception. With strong Philly ties surrounding him, there is naturally going to be a passionate group of supporters defending his side. But Crawford's supporters continue pointing toward his long professional career. Crawford has repeatedly stated that he has spent well over a decade as a professional without intentionally avoiding opponents, and his resume gives his supporters plenty of evidence to reference. His career has generally been built around moving toward major challenges rather than waiting for easy opportunities. Still, the Crawford-Ennis matchup refuses to disappear because the styles and storylines make it incredibly attractive. You have an established champion facing a younger contender who believes he is ready to take over. Experience would meet youth. Patience would meet aggression. Technical precision would face explosive athleticism. And now, Crawford appears to be putting the responsibility on Boots to make the challenge public. If Ennis defeats Xander Zayas and then directly calls for Crawford, everything changes. At that point, the matchup would no longer exist only as a fantasy created by fans. The demand would suddenly become impossible for boxing to ignore.
Think about that chatter about them actually if they ever were to fight.
Crawford is a man. He showed it throughout his career, and then moving up to super middleweight and did what he did with Canelo, showed that he's the best in the world, one of the best of all times. He doesn't need to prove anything else, man. He could take care of business. He could beat most of the guys out there right now in boxing. But I think he's defending himself. He knows how to defend himself. He knows how to talk. But I don't see him getting back in the ring. I don't see him even doing it just to.
That may be the most fascinating part of the entire situation. There is a legitimate possibility that Crawford would accept the challenge if the right offer and circumstances were put in place. It may not be the safest option. It may not even be the most financially convenient decision. But Crawford has repeatedly shown that proving his superiority can be a powerful source of motivation. For elite competitors, criticism can become fuel. Doubt can create an extra level of determination. And the more often Crawford hears that he is avoiding boots, the more tempting it may become for him to settle the argument inside the ring. Calling Crawford afraid of a challenge simply does not fit the career he has built. At the same time, Boots Ennis does not fight like someone intimidated by another man's reputation. He carries himself like a fighter who already believes he belongs among the very best.
That makes a whole lot of sense. And the fight that stylistically would be, oh my goodness, is a fight between Terence Crawford and Jaron Boots Ennis.
I don't think I think that's going backwards for Terence.
To that point, Jaron doesn't have the kind of accolades. He doesn't sell to the mass and all these. So this fight was perfect timing for both.
And if Crawford versus Ennis ever becomes official, the boxing world may completely lose its mind.